The opportunity you seek is already where you are. My friends, too often we tell ourselves a story that says opportunity lives somewhere else, in another city, in another job, in another version of ourselves. We convince ourselves that if we could just get there, wherever there is, then our lives would begin. But here's the truth. The opportunity you seek is already where you are. We have been taught to believe that opportunity is a reward, something that arrives after we've proven ourselves, after we've moved to the right city, earned the right title, or met the right people. We treat it like a destination, like a grand stage waiting somewhere in the distance. But what if opportunity isn't a place you travel to? What if it's a responsibility you accept? Opportunity is not a lottery ticket. It is not a miracle reserved for the lucky or the well-connected. More often than not, it is a quiet call to action. It is the decision to raise your hand when no one else will. It is the choice to solve a problem when it would be easier to complain about it. It is the willingness to step forward even when your voice shakes. Too many talented, capable people sit on the sidelines of their own lives because they are waiting to be chosen. They are waiting for the perfect timing, the perfect introduction, the perfect confidence. But the truth is, no one feels perfectly ready. Growth has never required perfection. When we think of opportunity as a destination, we give away our power. We convince ourselves that the real action is happening somewhere else, in bigger offices, in louder rooms, in circles we haven't entered yet. And while we're busy imagining that future, we miss the work that is right in front of us. We overlook the small decisions that shape character. We underestimate the influence we already have. The responsibility of opportunity begins with recognizing that where you stand today is not an accident. Your experiences, even the painful ones, have prepared you in ways you may not yet see. The challenges you face are not barriers to opportunity. They are invitations to create it. Responsibility means showing up fully in the space you occupy. It means asking, what can I improve here? Who can I help here? What solution can I offer here? It is easy to criticize systems, workplaces, communities, and institutions. It is harder and far more powerful to engage with them constructively. Responsibility also means understanding that leadership is not defined by position. You don't need a title to lead change. Leadership begins the moment you decide that indifference is not acceptable. It begins when you refuse to say, that's not my problem. Because if you can see the problem, if it stirs something in you, then perhaps it is your responsibility. There is a quiet courage in accepting that the opportunity you seek is already in your hands. It may look like extra effort. It may require uncomfortable conversations. It may mean taking risks that others avoid. But progress has always depended on people who were willing to do the work where they stood. Responsibility reshapes how you view setbacks. Instead of seeing rejection as proof that opportunity is elsewhere, you begin to see it as refinement. Instead of interpreting obstacles as signals to retreat, you recognize them as training. Every challenge becomes preparation for greater influence. Every mistake becomes education. And let's be honest, responsibility is not always glamorous. It doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it means staying late to finish what you started. Sometimes it means listening more than you speak. Sometimes it means extending grace when frustration would be easier. But responsibility builds credibility, it builds trust, it builds resilience, and those qualities create doors that no resume alone ever could. When you embrace opportunity as responsibility, you stop asking, when will someone give me a chance, and start asking, how can I create a chance? That shift changes everything. It transforms you from a spectator into a participant, from a dreamer into a builder. And here's the remarkable thing. When you accept responsibility in small ways, larger opportunities begin to follow. Not because you chase them desperately, but because you proved that wherever you are placed, you will add value. That you will not wait for ideal conditions to do meaningful work. Communities grow stronger when individuals take responsibility for improvement. Workplaces become innovative when employees act like owners. Families become resilient when each member chooses contribution over complaint. The ripple effect of one person stepping up is far greater than we often realize. Opportunity does not always announce itself with fanfare. Sometimes it whispers, "This needs you." Sometimes it nudges you toward the uncomfortable task. Sometimes it challenges you to speak when silence feels safer. The question is not whether opportunity exists where you are. The question is whether you are willing to accept it. Because the moment you do, the moment you say, this is my ground, this is my time, I will act, everything shifts. Opportunity stops being a distant dream. It becomes a present responsibility. We have a habit, don't we, of underestimating where we come from. We look at our communities, our families, our workplaces, and sometimes all we can see are the limitations. We see what's missing, we see what's broken, we see what feels small compared to the world we imagine beyond it. But what if the very things you consider obstacles are in fact your greatest assets? Your community is not a cage, it is a classroom. It has shaped your instincts, sharpened your awareness, strengthened your empathy. The challenges you face there, the economic pressures, the social barriers, the everyday struggles, have taught you lessons that no textbook ever could. They have given you insight into real problems. And insight is power. Too often, we glamorize distance. We assume the answers are somewhere else, crafted by someone else, delivered from far away. Yet meaningful change has always started with people who understood their own communities deeply, who knew the streets, the stories, the struggles. You cannot fix what you do not understand. And you understand more than you think. The experiences you carry, even the painful ones, are not scars to hide. They are credentials. If you have faced rejection, you know how to recognize injustice. If you have navigated scarcity, you know how to stretch resources. If you have felt unheard, you know the power of listening. It builds resilience in ways comfort never could. It sharpens creativity because you learn to make something out of very little. It develops courage because you learn to keep going, even when encouragement is scarce. And let me say this clearly, your background does not disqualify you. It equips you. The world does not need more people who have had perfect journeys. It needs people who have wrestled with reality and chosen to rise anyway. It needs people who can look at a problem and say, I know this terrain. I've walked it. I can help navigate it. Think about the networks already around you, the neighbors, colleagues, mentors, friends. We sometimes overlook these connections because they feel ordinary. But ordinary relationships are often the foundation of extraordinary progress. A conversation at a local meeting can spark an idea. A shared frustration can lead to collaboration. A simple act of support can unlock someone else's potential, and in doing so, expand your own. When you dismiss your environment as too small, you shrink your sense of possibility. But when you choose to see it as fertile ground, everything changes. The same streets become opportunities for service. The same workplace becomes a laboratory for leadership. The same circle of friends becomes a coalition for innovation. Challenges within your community are not proof that you should escape. They are invitations to engage. If something bothers you, if a system feels unfair, if a resource feels inaccessible, if a voice is being ignored, that discomfort is not random. It is awareness. And awareness is the beginning of action. Progress rarely begins with grand gestures. It begins with someone who cares enough to ask a better question, someone who listens closely, someone who believes that improvement is possible right here, not someday, not somewhere else. But here, the truth is, adversity builds muscle. It builds perspective. It builds determination. When you've had to work twice as hard, you learn discipline. When you've been underestimated, you learn persistence. When you've faced closed doors, you learn how to build your own. Your community struggles give you credibility when you advocate for change. Your experiences give you authenticity when you speak. People trust those who understand them. They follow those who have walked beside them. So instead of asking, why is this my starting point? Begin asking, how can I transform this starting point into strength? It comes from commitment. And here's something else. When you choose to see your environment as an asset, you begin to invest in it differently. You stop looking for exits and start building entrances. You mentor someone younger. You volunteer your skills. You propose ideas instead of waiting for instructions. You create momentum. And momentum is contagious. When one person steps forward, others notice. When one voice speaks with conviction, others find courage. When one community member decides that their circumstances are not excuses, but equipment, the entire atmosphere shifts. You are not defined by the limitations around you. You are defined by how you respond to them. The very ground you stand on, imperfect, complicated, sometimes frustrating, is rich with potential. The question is not whether your community and experiences are enough. The question is whether you are ready to see them as the assets they have always been. There comes a moment in every life when watching is no longer enough, when observing, analyzing, even criticizing from a distance, simply doesn't satisfy the urgency you feel inside. That moment is an invitation, because progress does not begin with perfection. It begins with participation. We sometimes imagine that change is driven by a select few, the powerful, the wealthy, the well-connected. We tell ourselves that our role is to wait, to see what decisions are made, to adapt afterward. But history has never moved forward because people stayed seated. It has moved forward because ordinary individuals chose to show up. Showing up sounds simple. It isn't always. It means being present even when the outcome is uncertain. It means attending the meeting when you're tired. It means volunteering when your schedule feels full. It means standing in rooms where you may not feel entirely comfortable yet. Presence is powerful. It signals commitment. It signals that you care enough to engage. And then there is speaking up. Now, speaking up does not mean shouting the loudest. It means contributing your perspective with courage and clarity. It means asking the question others are hesitant to ask. It means respectfully challenging ideas that need to be examined. Silence can feel safe, but progress depends on voices. Your voice carries something no one else's does. Your experience, your insight, your understanding of what is working and what is not. When you withhold it, the conversation is incomplete. When you offer it, you enrich the room. Participation also means stepping up. Stepping up is that moment when responsibility meets action. It's when you move from agreement to involvement. You may agree that your workplace could be more innovative. Stepping up means proposing a solution. You may agree that your community needs improvement. Stepping up means helping organize, mentor, or lead. You may believe in fairness and opportunity. Stepping up means advocating or policies and practices that reflect those values. Too often, we underestimate the ripple effect of participation. We think our individual action is too small to matter, but every movement, every reform, every breakthrough began with someone who decided to engage rather than observe. Participation builds credibility. When people see that you are consistent, that you show up repeatedly, that you contribute constructively, they begin to trust you. And trust creates influence. Influence opens doors. Doors lead to opportunity. There will be moments when participation feels uncomfortable. You may worry about making mistakes. You may fear criticism. You may wonder whether your contribution will be valued. Let me assure you of this. Growth rarely happens inside comfort zones. It happens when you stretch, when you risk speaking before you feel entirely ready, when you volunteer before you feel entirely qualified. No one starts as an expert. Expertise is developed through engagement. Confidence is built through action. The more you participate, the more capable you become. And participation is not only about personal advancement. It strengthens communities. When more people are involved, solutions become more thoughtful. When more perspectives are represented, decisions become more inclusive. When more hands are willing to work, progress accelerates. Democracy itself depends on participation. Organizations thrive on participation. Families grow stronger through participation. In every sphere of life, engagement is the engine of improvement. But participation requires intention. It requires deciding that your presence matters, that your voice is worth hearing, that your contribution is valuable. And sometimes it requires persistence, showing up again even when the first effort didn't produce immediate results. Progress is rarely instantaneous. It is incremental. It is built. Conversation by conversation, effort by effort, vote by vote, idea by idea. Participation keeps momentum alive. And here is something we don't always acknowledge. When you participate, you inspire others to do the same. Courage is contagious. When one person speaks thoughtfully, it gives another permission to share. When one person volunteers, others reconsider their hesitation. When one person steps up to lead, others find the confidence to support. Participation transforms you from a bystander into a builder. It changes your relationship with opportunity. Instead of waiting for doors to open, you begin helping construct the doorway. Instead of wondering who will fix the problem, you become part of the solution. Instead of asking whether your efforts matter, You witness firsthand the difference they make. And perhaps most importantly, participation gives you ownership. Ownership of your growth, ownership of your environment, ownership of your future. You cannot control every outcome. You cannot eliminate every obstacle, but you can control whether you engage. You can control whether you lend your skills, your ideas, your energy. Progress begins with participation. So show up, speak up. Let's talk honestly about resilience, because it's a word we hear often, but we don't always unpack what it truly demands of us. Resilience is not pretending that setbacks don't hurt. It is not smiling through disappointment or ignoring the weight of failure. Resilience is the decision to keep moving forward when standing still would be easier. Every one of us will encounter moments when the path narrows, when the door closes, when the plan falls apart. You will work hard for something and not receive it. You will invest time, energy, hope, and face rejection. That is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reality of growth. The difference between those who remain stuck and those who break through is not luck. It is resilience. Resilience is built in the ordinary days when you choose discipline over distraction. It is strengthened in the difficult conversations when you choose honesty over avoidance. It grows each time you recover from a mistake, instead of allowing that mistake to define you. We often think breakthroughs come from grand moments, a dramatic opportunity, a single bold leap. But more often, extraordinary breakthroughs are the result of quiet persistence. They are the product of someone who kept showing up long after the applause faded, someone who revised the plan instead of abandoning it, someone who learned from criticism rather than being crushed by it. Resilience transforms failure into feedback. When something doesn't work, you have a choice. You can internalize it as defeat, or you can analyze it as data. What can I improve? What can I adjust? What did this experience teach me? That mindset, that willingness to refine rather than retreat, is where progress lives. And let me be clear, resilience does not mean you never feel discouraged. It means discouragement does not have the final word. There will be seasons when progress feels invisible, when your efforts seem unnoticed, when you question whether the goal is still worth pursuing. In those moments, resilience is remembering why you began. It is reconnecting to your purpose. It is trusting that consistent effort compounds over time. Think about the muscles in your body. They grow through resistance. Without resistance, there is no strength. The same is true of character. The obstacles you face are not interruptions to your journey. They are shaping it. They are building patience, endurance, perspective. And perspective is powerful. When you face setbacks, you develop empathy for others who struggle. When you've navigated disappointment, you gain wisdom about what truly matters. When you've rebuilt after loss, you understand that you are capable of more than you once believed. Resilience also requires adaptability. The world changes, circumstances shift, plans must evolve. Being resilient does not mean clinging stubbornly to one path. It means staying committed to the goal while being flexible about the route. Sometimes the breakthrough you imagine looks different when it arrives. Sometimes the rejection that felt devastating redirects you towards something more aligned with your strengths. Sometimes the delay that frustrated you was preparing you for greater responsibility. Resilience allows you to see those possibilities. It reminds you that a closed door is not the end of opportunity. It is a moment to knock differently or to build your own entrance. It reminds you that setbacks are chapters, not conclusions. It is contagious. When others see you persist with integrity, when they see you respond to criticism with growth instead of bitterness, when they see you rise after a fall, it strengthens their belief in what is possible. Your resilience becomes a model. It becomes permission for someone else to try again. Breakthroughs are rarely accidental. They are earned through repetition, through learning, through refusing to surrender to temporary defeat. They are born in the space between frustration and determination. When you decide that the obstacle will not define you, there is power in that decision, because resilience shifts your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who failed and start seeing yourself as someone who is evolving. You stop measuring progress only by immediate results and begin recognizing growth in persistence itself. Extraordinary breakthroughs are not reserved for extraordinary people. They are created by ordinary people who refuse to quit. So when the storm comes, and it will, Do not mistake it for the end of your story. Let it refine you. Let it teach you. Let it strengthen you. Because resilience turns ordinary moments into extraordinary breakthroughs. There is one more truth we must embrace if we are serious about opportunity. It is this: success is not a solo act. No matter how independent we may feel, no matter how driven or capable, our growth is always connected to others. And the most powerful opportunities often emerge not when we focus solely on climbing higher, but when we reach back and lift someone else with us. We live in a culture that celebrates individual achievement. The promotions, the awards, the titles, they are often framed as personal victories. But behind every achievement stands a network of support. A teacher who encouraged you, a colleague who believed in you, a friend who reminded you of your strength when you doubted it. None of us rise alone. When you lift others, you strengthen the very foundation you stand on. Think about what happens when you mentor someone. You sharpen your own understanding. You clarify your values. You learn patience and communication in deeper ways. Leadership grows stronger when it is shared. Generosity expands capacity, and opportunity multiplies when it is distributed. Too often people approach success as if it were scarce, as if helping someone else might somehow diminish their own chances. But opportunity is not a limited resource. It is not a pie with only so many slices. In fact, the more people who are empowered, educated, and encouraged, the more innovation and progress we create together. When you advocate for fairness, you help build systems that benefit everyone. When you share knowledge, you accelerate collective growth. When you open a door for someone else, you create a culture where doors open more easily for all. Lifting other, S does not require grand gestures. It can begin with small, consistent acts, offering constructive feedback, recommending someone for a project, listening without judgment, celebrating someone else's achievement without comparison. These moments may seem simple, but they shape environments, and environments matter. A workplace where people support each other becomes a space of creativity. A community where individuals invest in one another becomes resilient. A family where members encourage each other becomes strong across generations. When people feel valued, they contribute more fully. When they are empowered, they innovate more boldly. There is also something transformative that happens within you when you lift others. You shift from competition to collaboration. You begin to see success as interconnected rather than isolated. And that perspective changes how you move through the world. Instead of asking, how do I get ahead? You begin asking, how do we move forward together? That shift does not weaken ambition. It strengthens it. Because collective progress creates stability, sustainability, and lasting impact. Lifting others also builds trust. When people know that you are invested in their growth, they become invested in yours. Relationships deepen, networks strengthen, opportunities circulate. The goodwill you extend has a way of returning, sometimes from unexpected places. But lifting others requires intention. It requires humility, the willingness to recognize that your knowledge is not diminished by sharing it. It requires confidence, the belief that empowering someone else does not threaten your own potential. And it requires courage, because sometimes advocating for others means challenging systems that resist change. Yet this is where real leadership is formed. Leadership is not measured by how many people stand beneath you. It is measured by how any people stand beside you because you help them rise. Influence that uplifts endures. Authority that empowers inspires loyalty. And let's be honest, there will be moments when helping others feels inconvenient, when your schedule is full, when your energy is stretched, when you wonder whether your effort will make a difference. In those moments, remember this: every major shift in history began with someone who chose to invest in others despite uncertainty. When you lift someone else, you are not just changing their trajectory, you are strengthening the entire system. You are expanding what is possible. You are reinforcing a culture where opportunity is shared rather than hoarded. And shared opportunity is powerful because when more people are equipped to succeed, solutions become more creative. Progress becomes more inclusive. We rise faster together than we ever could alone. The opportunity you seek, the influence, the fulfillment, the impact grows in proportion to the value you create for others. When you contribute to someone else's advancement, you expand your own capacity. When you invest in someone else's confidence, You reinforce your own leadership. Success that stands alone is fragile. Success that lifts others is enduring. So as you pursue your goals, as you step into responsibility, as you participate fully and persevere through setbacks, remember this final truth. When you lift others, you rise with them.